For nearly 3,000 years, one object has been missing from history. The Ark of the Covenant. Described in the Bible as the most sacred object ever built by the Israelites. Vanished without a trace after the destruction of Jerusalem in the 6th century BCE. No Roman record mentions it. No Babylonian inventory lists it. No archaeological evidence confirms where it went. And yet, one ancient Christian tradition claims the Ark was never lost at all, only hidden. According to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the Ark of the Covenant is real, intact, and has been guarded in secret for centuries in the town of Axum, Ethiopia. It is said to be kept inside a sealed chapel, protected by a single monk who is forbidden to leave, and too sacred or too dangerous for anyone else to see. This film examines the historical disappearance of the Ark, the rise of Ethiopian Christianity, and the extraordinary claim that one of the most powerful relics of the ancient world still exists today. Not as legend, but as a guarded object hidden in plain sight. Before examining the claim that the Ark survives in Ethiopia, we need to understand what the Ark of the Covenant was and why it mattered. According to the Hebrew Bible, the Ark of the Covenant was constructed by the Israelites during the Exodus from Egypt under direct instruction given to Moses. Its description appears in the book of Exodus, chapters 25 through 40. The Ark was built from acacia wood and overlaid with pure gold, inside and out. It measured roughly 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. It was designed to be carried using wooden poles, also overlaid with gold, and never to be touched directly. The Ark was topped by a solid gold lid known as the mercy seat, flanked by 2 cherubim facing one another. According to the text, the Ark housed the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments, and later traditions claim it also contained Aaron's staff and a vessel of manna. Most importantly, the Ark was believed to be the physical dwelling place of the presence of God on earth. According to the Hebrew Bible, the Ark of the Covenant was not symbolic. It was functional. The texts describe it as an object through which divine power was expressed, often violently and often without warning. In the book of Joshua, the Ark is carried before the Israelite army as they approach the city of Jericho. For 6 days, they march in silence. On the 7th day, after the Ark is carried around the city walls, the walls collapse. The text does not describe siege engines. It does not describe earthquakes. It attributes the destruction directly to the presence of the Ark. In another account, recorded in the first book of Samuel, the Ark is captured by the Philistines and taken into their territory. Soon after, the cities that house it are struck by disease and death. The Ark is moved again, and the same pattern follows. The Philistines eventually return it, describing the object as dangerous and impossible to control. But the Ark does not spare the Israelites either. In the second book of Samuel, a man named Uzzah reaches out to steady the Ark as it is being transported. The text states that he touches it and is struck dead instantly. No warning is given. No ritual is performed. Contact alone is enough. Because of incidents like these, strict rules surrounded the Ark. It could only be carried by designated priests. It could never be touched directly. And it was kept hidden within the innermost chamber of the tabernacle and later the temple in Jerusalem. By the time of King Solomon, the Ark is placed inside the Holy of Holies, a space entered only once per year, and even then, only by one man. By the late First Temple period, the Ark of the Covenant is no longer moving with armies. It is no longer displayed. It is no longer mentioned as an active presence. Instead, it is sealed away inside the temple in Jerusalem unseen and increasingly absent from the historical record. The last clear biblical reference to the Ark appears during the reign of King Josiah in the late 7th century BCE. Shortly after this point, something changes. In 586 BCE, the Babylonian Empire invades the kingdom of Judah and destroys Jerusalem. The Temple of Solomon is burned to the ground. The city is looted. Its elites are exiled to Babylon. Babylonian records carefully list the treasures taken from the temple: gold vessels, ritual objects, and sacred furnishings. But the Ark of the Covenant is not mentioned. Not once. There is no description of its destruction, no record of it being captured, no account of it being transported to Babylon. From this moment onward, the Ark disappears entirely from the Hebrew Bible. Later biblical books written after the exile describe a rebuilt temple. They describe rituals. They describe priesthoods. But the Ark is gone. The Holy of Holies remains. It is described as empty. This silence has led historians to consider three possibilities. The Ark was destroyed during the Babylonian invasion. The Ark was captured, and its fate deliberately omitted. Or the Ark was removed from Jerusalem before the city fell. Ancient Jewish traditions support the third possibility. Some suggest the Ark was hidden beneath the Temple Mount. Others claim it was taken to a place of safety, far from invading armies. What is clear is this: one of the most sacred objects in the ancient world vanishes at the precise moment Jerusalem falls. And no contemporary source explains what happened next. If that is true, then the story of the Ark does not end in Babylon. It begins somewhere else.
If the Ark of the Covenant was removed from Jerusalem before its destruction, the question becomes where it could have gone and who could have taken it. One ancient tradition offers a detailed answer. Axum. Axum is an ancient city in northern Ethiopia and the former capital of the Aksumite Empire, one of the great powers of the ancient world. By the 1st century CE, Axum controlled key trade routes, linking Africa, Arabia, and the Mediterranean world. It minted its own currency, maintained diplomatic relations with Rome and Byzantium, and by the 4th century CE, it adopted Christianity as a state religion, making it one of the earliest Christian kingdoms in history. Today, Axum remains the spiritual center of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church. And it is here that the Church claims the Ark of the Covenant has been preserved for centuries. According to Ethiopian tradition, the Ark is housed within the Church of St. Mary of Zion, more precisely, inside a small, sealed chapel beside the main church. Access is forbidden. No photographs are permitted, and no one, including senior clergy, is allowed to see what is kept inside. The Ark is said to be guarded by a single monk. He is chosen for life. Once appointed, he may never leave the chapel grounds. He may not speak about what he guards. And when he dies, another guardian is selected in secret to replace him. This system, according to the Church, has continued uninterrupted for generations. The Ethiopian claim is not based on archaeology or external verification. It is based on a sacred national text, the Kebra Nagast, meaning the glory of kings. The Kebra Nagast was compiled in its current form, around the 13th century CE, but it draws on much older oral traditions. It tells the story of the Queen of Sheba, known in Ethiopian tradition as Makeda, and her visit to King Solomon in Jerusalem. According to the text, Makeda bears Solomon a son, Menelik I. When Menelik reaches adulthood, he travels to Jerusalem to meet his father. Before returning to Ethiopia, he is said to have taken the Ark of the Covenant either with Solomon's knowledge or without it, depending on the version of the story. The Ark is then brought to Ethiopia, where it becomes the spiritual foundation of a new kingdom. From this point onward, Ethiopian kings claim direct descent from Solomon himself, a lineage that would endure for centuries. This tradition also explains why Ethiopian Christianity differs significantly from other branches of the faith. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church maintains one of the largest biblical canons in the world. Its Old Testament includes books not found in the Hebrew Bible or Western Christian Bibles, such as Enoch, Jubilees, and one Maccabean. Its traditions preserve Jewish elements alongside Christian theology, including dietary laws, ritual practices, and a unique emphasis on Old Testament authority. Within this framework, the Ark of the Covenant is not a lost relic. It is a living presence. Every Ethiopian Orthodox church contains a tabot, a sacred altar tablet representing the Ark. But only one tablet, according to tradition, is the original, and it is said to remain in Axum.
Before continuing, it's important to be clear about what can and cannot be proven. There is no archaeological evidence that independently confirms the Ark's presence in Axum. No scientific examination has ever been permitted. The Ethiopian claim rests on tradition, not verification. From a strictly historical perspective, that matters. And yet, this is where the story becomes more complex. Because for centuries the claim has remained unchanged, and every attempt to investigate it ends at the same point. At the Church of St. Mary of Zion in Axum, access to the Ark of the Covenant does not depend on rank, scholarship, or authority. It depends on one man, the guardian. According to Ethiopian Orthodox tradition, the guardian of the Ark is a monk chosen for life. Once appointed, he may never leave the chapel grounds. He may never describe what he guards. His role is ceremonial and spiritual. He is not a soldier. By himself, he could not stop an armed force from entering the church. That is not his function. The true protection of the Ark does not rest with the guardian alone. It rests with Axum. Axum is not an isolated religious site. It is a deeply devout city with a long tradition of defending its sacred spaces by force if necessary. The town is heavily armed by regional standards, and its population has historically mobilized to protect religious institutions. In Ethiopian culture, churches are not abstract symbols. They are defended territory. This has been tested. During the Italian invasion of Ethiopia in the 1930s, Axum was occupied by foreign troops. The city was entered. Its monuments were surveyed. Its churches were known. Yet the chapel believed to house the Ark was never breached. No attempt was made to seize what was inside. Any such act would have risked violent resistance, widespread unrest, and a religious uprising far beyond Axum itself. This pattern repeats throughout modern Ethiopian history. Governments have changed. Regimes have fallen. Conflicts have come and gone. But the claim of the Ark's presence in Axum has remained untouched, not because it is unguarded, but because forcibly testing that claim would almost certainly provoke armed resistance from the local population. The guardian stands as a symbol. The real deterrent is the city itself, its weapons, its history, and its willingness to defend what it believes to be the physical center of its faith. It is within this context that modern researchers encounter the same limits. Among them is author and researcher Graham Hancock. Hancock reports having met 4 former guardians of the Ark. Each, he claims, suffered from severe cataracts. When he asked Ethiopian priests what caused this, he was given a direct answer. The Ark is a thing of fire. The phrase is not offered as metaphor. Within Ethiopian tradition, the Ark is believed to emit a dangerous force, something that must be approached with extreme caution. This belief echoes earlier biblical warnings that the Ark could not be touched, that proximity alone could be fatal, that it possessed a power capable of destruction. Skeptics argue that cataracts are common in regions with intense sunlight and limited medical care. Supporters counter that the pattern is too consistent and too closely associated with proximity to the Ark to dismiss entirely. What is clear is this. For centuries, the Ark has been protected not only by secrecy and ritual, but by an armed population prepared to defend it. And that reality explains why the Ark remains unseen. By this point, one question becomes unavoidable. If the Ark of the Covenant was never meant to be seen, if it was feared as much as it was revered, and if prolonged exposure appeared to cause blindness, illness, or death, Then what exactly was it? The Hebrew Bible describes the ark not symbolically, but mechanically. It gives precise measurements, specific materials, exact construction instructions. Most importantly, it describes the ark as active. It emits power. It kills those who touch it improperly. It must be carried using insulated poles. And it is repeatedly described as radiating something described only as the presence of God. In the book of Exodus, Moses cannot approach it directly. In later accounts, priests are struck down instantly for mishandling it. In one story, an entire group of men die simply from looking inside. These are not metaphorical warnings. They read like safety instructions. Modern researchers have proposed a range of explanations. Some suggest the ark functioned as a type of capacitor capable of storing and discharging electrical energy. Others argue it may have produced ionizing radiation, which could explain the cataracts reported by multiple ark guardians centuries later. Some alternative researchers suggest the ark was not an isolated invention, but a portable device derived from a much older technological tradition. In this hypothesis, the ark may once have been positioned within a much larger structure, not as a religious relic, but as a functional component. The Great Pyramid of Giza is often cited. Built over 1,000 years before the ark appears in biblical texts, the pyramid contains features that remain unexplained. Granite chambers rich in quartz, precise geometry, and internal shafts whose purpose is still debated. In this interpretation, the pyramid is imagined not as a tomb, but as a vast energy-focused structure, and the ark as a smaller, mobile element removed or repurposed by later cultures. There is no historical evidence directly linking the Ark of the Covenant to Giza. But what this idea highlights is something deeper. That the ark does not behave like a normal religious object. It behaves like something dangerous, something controlled, something feared even by those who worshipped it. Whether divine, misunderstood, or technological, the ark occupies a strange space between religion and physics, a space ancient people clearly believed required rules, rituals, and isolation. And perhaps that is why, even today, it remains hidden. So where does that leave us? According to the Hebrew Bible, the Ark of the Covenant was real, physical, and dangerous. According to Ethiopian tradition, it still exists hidden, guarded, and treated with extreme caution. According to modern researchers, its reported effects resemble radiation, electricity, or exposure to something humans did not fully understand. And yet, no one is allowed to examine it. All we have are ancient instructions, living traditions, and consistent warnings passed down for thousands of years. Maybe the ark was exactly what the Bible claims the dwelling place of God. Maybe it was a powerful object inherited from a far older civilization. Or maybe it was something else entirely, something ancient people didn't have the language to explain. What is clear is this: the Ark of the Covenant is not treated like a myth. It is treated like a threat. And if it truly lies in Axum today, then humanity may already be standing next to one of the most dangerous objects in history without ever being allowed to see it. So the real question isn't where the ark is, it's what it really was. Let me know what you think in the comments.